You're listening to Consulting Logistics, presented by Aborn and Company. I'm your host, Tim Dooner. Thank you for joining us today. Supply chain education, a topic near and dear to my heart. A few months back, I had mentioned that I went to MIT's Scale event, where teams of students worked with real global companies to develop solutions based on a specific problem. It's a great event and a fantastic program. Well, today, our guest is a graduate student from one of those teams. His name is Manish Patwal, and he is dialing in from the other side of our great round earth. Good evening, Manish, and thank you for joining us on Consulting Logistics.
Thank you, Tim, for hosting me.
Manish, where are you dialing in from tonight?
Tim, I'm dialing from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Great calling in long distance. A little bit about Manish for listeners if they're not familiar. He is a graduate of, again, I'll try this. I'm probably going to butcher it. You're probably going to have to help me out here, but it's Govind Balaba Pankrisha Evam Pradoyogi. Did I get even anywhere close, Manish?
You're almost perfect, Tim.
Nice. I believe that is located in India, correct?
Yes. So it's a university located in northern state of India called Uttarakhand. It's a very famous university known for agricultural research. It's also called as the harbinger of Green Revolution in India. This university was founded in 1960 and thereafter it worked heavily on agricultural research and contributed to the Green Revolution in India. The Green Revolution is called as the aim of the Indian government towards improving the seeds and other aspects of farming in India. And this university played a pivotal role in improving the seed quality to their research.
Well, that really makes sense because after that, you spent 7 years working as an engineer at John Deere in India.
Yes.
But you left there and you're just finishing up a graduate program at MISI. That's the Malaysia Institute for Supply Chain Innovation, which works in partnership with, many listeners may be familiar with, MIT's Global Scale Network. So let's start it right now. Tell us a little bit about this graduate program at MISI.
Wow. So Malaysia Institute for Supply Chain Innovation was launched as also called MISI, was launched as a joint initiative between the MIT and the government of Malaysia in 2011. Now, MISI features master's program in supply chain management and logistics and is an independent standalone granting academic institution. MISI is a member of the MIT Global Scale Network. The scale here is referred to the Supply Chain and Logistics Excellence Network. The MIT Global Scale Network consists of 6 centers located in North America, Asia, Europe, and South America.
So through MISI, that is how you and I first met. I met you not in Malaysia, but in Cambridge a few months ago, right in the winter. I believe the Scale event was that January that we met?
Yes, it was.
How did you get involved with MIT, and what is the Scale event that I had met you at?
Since MISI is a part of the MIT Scale Network, so every year in January, all the Scale centers meet in IAP, which is we called as Independent Activities Period. In IAP, all the different students from all the different institutes, they have to go through different set of activities such as supply chain case studies, supply chain competitions, and we have a different set of speakers. We also have a visit to different companies. So this research is kind of the final part of the IAP. Now, in this research, we kind of present our thesis, what we have worked on before coming to MIT. So all the students from different scale center, they present their thesis to the different industry members, academician, to show the progress they have made in the thesis, as well as the guidance they can get from some of the visitors.
MIT's Scale program. I went to this event. It was a great time. And what it does is it challenges students in their network with improving supply chain efficiencies. You have teams, right? And you get a sponsor who tasks you with solving some sort of issue, some sort of thesis. Who is your partner? And I believe your presentation was on reducing lead time and improving on-time delivery. So in a program like that, how did you pick that as a topic? Did you have a sponsor? Tell me a little bit about the process.
So, every student who is part of the MIT Scale Network have to do either a final capstone project or thesis. So, the different institution within the MIT Scale Network may have some different minor criteria in assigning the project. Now, how it works usually in MISI MISI is at the different companies they contact the institute for different projects that they want to drive. Now, based on the list of the projects at the start of the academic year and the availability of students, there is a kind of a match between the students' background and the company's thesis that they want to do. There is also the feedback or kind of preference from the student on what kind of thesis they want to work. Based on all these different criteria, the thesis is assigned. And usually it's around two people who usually work on a thesis so that the overall workload during the whole program can be balanced.
Now, when we went to this event, Steve Aborn and myself went to this event. All the students had a bunch of different presentations. There are these flat screen monitors. There must have been 50 or 100 of them, and they were rotating teams. How many presentations were there? It seemed to me like there must have been at least 100.
Yes, you are absolutely spot on. So for this year's scale program, we have around 180 plus student, and considering a team of two, it's almost 100 plus student in two different rooms. And it was like half an hour each team of student that were presenting. So still they were able to accommodate. But considering the growth, as Skill Center is saying, it's going to get increased, and that will be another fantastic opportunity in future to go and visit more people from different backgrounds presenting their fantastic research there.
Yeah, well, I read your article on LinkedIn. You have a great roundup for this, and it's so good. I think I'll put a link to it in the show notes for this episode if you want to read it, anybody who's listening. But Manish, he went to a great robotics company out here, Lucas Robotics. You went to Walgreens. You had access to all of these different companies and great minds to solve these issues. Tell me a little bit about that experience, though, having access to seeing the advances in robotics and what they're doing, and the challenges that someone like Walgreens faces distributing pharmaceuticals.
In terms of technology advancement, if we see about Locus Robotics, it's completely amazing the way the Locus Robotics robots work.
Error. Grasshopper disassemble. Reassemble.
In terms of like in the old warehouse system, there used to be the concept of a particular person will have to go and pick a material from a particular rack. Now imagine someone working in a particular warehouse in a day, how much distance he has to travel only to get a particular part. Now what does the Locus Robotics does? Instead of a person going to go and pick a particular part from a rack, these particular robots, they're designed in such a way that they can pick a part and they can move it to the person. So it's the other way around here through these robots. And now these robots are so smart that even with the congestion that is very common in the warehouse, there could be people moving, there could be some stray material on different parts. They will still find the way to get to the desired location where they have to give the part to a particular person. Now, these robots can operate around 14 hours on battery, and they have the mechanism in which maybe during the break hours, they can charge themselves and keep on operating. So it was just fantastic to see those robots live in action in front of our eyes. In terms of Walgreen, the whole challenges of the distribution of over so much SKUs is completely different. Like it's something unheard of. The way the different packages are coming from different suppliers in terms of the overall size is very different, and the final output or the final product they have to replenish in store could be a very small parcel. So there are different kind of unpackaging the items and then packaging items at a smaller level SKU. It was a whole set of lines at different sections, and it was amazing to see the complexity that goes in a distribution center like Walgreens.
I don't know if this came up and which order you went to these two places in, but I've been to a few warehouses recently, and I've started to meet some of these warehouse robots and talk to the engineers and the brilliant minds behind them.
My friends call me Murphy.
And I asked why most of these robots don't have arms on them, and there really aren't a lot of picking robots just yet. And it comes down to something you just mentioned. A company like Walgreens, think about them. they have 1,000 different SKUs. They have a million different SKUs, right? Because they're not just pharma. They're also a convenience store.
Yes.
You can get Pepto-Bismol there, you can get your Prozac there, but you can also get a magazine and a bag of chips and a Coke.
Yes.
So in order to send those and ship those to people, though, one of the big challenges that picking robots face is that SKUs are so different in shape and so dynamic in size, it becomes very hard to program that into any type of hand-picking machine unless it's dedicated to a singular type of product or a singular type of SKU. But I've seen some really cool picking arms that were using like almost a gel-like hand to get around that whole challenge of programming a machine to know what it's picking up and not crushing it.
Wow. So that's a great question, Tim. Lucas Robotics still doesn't have that particular arm to kind of pick up a material and deliver. It's still in the phase where the material has to be placed on top of the robot. There's a particular section, and then it will kind of move it and deliver it. So, as you rightly mentioned, there are a lot of challenges in terms of robots with arms. As even the Locus Robotics, the kind of distribution centers it is serving, it's kind of have a lot of variety. So it's the same challenge what kind of we have seen in Walgreens, so that they're good in moving the part from one location to another, but still the robots have to develop a lot to have those smart picking arms, what I will call, which can adjust the picking according to the material that it want to pick.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Your project was not robotics. It was reducing lead time and improving on-time delivery. What did you learn during the course of doing this project? What were the results of your findings?
So the project is still ongoing. By the time of the presentation of the research, the initial finding that we had were very fascinating. We did some great end-to-end mapping of the OFAC, and considering myself, who is coming from an automotive background, where the supply chain kind of functions with standardization of parts, there is a just-in-time inventory. The process in OFAC is completely different. So when we kind of mapped it, analyzed the data, gave preliminary results, it was eye-opening for us to see how much opportunity there is in OFAC supply chain, which we can implement in terms of lead time reduction. Now, when it comes to OFAC supply chain, there is a lot of more variability also. This is mainly because there are a lot of players that are operating in a particular geography, and it's not very easy for supplier also to hold a lot of different SKUs for each of these particular oil companies. As a result, there is always some challenges in having the right material. Companies, as a result, are pushing to have a centralized inventory. However, I will say this focus on lead time reduction is more because of the sudden change in the oil prices that we have seen globally, and as a result, it's a push. So a lot of stuff that we still are working on in terms of trying to get it narrow and more refined. Few of the areas we have kind of figured out how can we reduce the lead time, but still it's an ongoing research which will have to continue for 2 more months to kind of build on top of what the solid foundation that we have built so far.
How long were you in Cambridge for at MIT working in scale? Because you're based in Malaysia, right? At MISI. So you come out from the program. What are the logistics of that, especially for students who are listening and studying abroad right now, and maybe are considering getting a part of the Scale Network? Or conversely, there may be Americans listening who would love to go and study and learn in Malaysia, but still want to be a part of something like Scale back in their own backyard over here in Cambridge. Tell me how that whole process works.
So the logistics system will vary a lot from institute to institute. Like in case of MISI, usually it's already a part of tuition fees. So that will mainly be specified in terms of admission in any of the scale network. It may vary with other scale centers, like they may have a different set of policies. So I know few scale centers where it's not a part of tuition fee, where students have to pay for some of the logistics cost. But at the start of any of this program, it will be kind of shared whether it's a part of the fees or not.
And how long were you here for in Cambridge? Were you here just for the event? It looked like you studied, you got to go visit some things. So
Yes.
how long were your boots on the ground in the States and in Massachusetts?
So the whole group of 180 plus people, we were around there for around 3 plus weeks. So we had a different set of programs in 3 plus weeks. So we had a lot of speaker series. We are people from different industries. They visited the MIT campus, and they shared their journey in the supply chain management. There were also a few entrepreneurs who founded their companies, and they showed us what it's like to be a journey of an entrepreneur and how they use their supply chain education to go there. We also had very fantastic programs like Epic's case study, where we kind of have some business plan and we shared this with the others. Then we also have few supply chain simulation game. We call it Fresh Connection game.
The Fresh Connection is an experiential learning tool that creates a simulated business value chain environment consisting of customers, sales and marketing, supply chain, manufacturing and sourcing. The Fresh Connection has been used in 25 countries by more than 750 companies and 10,000 professionals for gaining hands-on experience in managing value chain.
So IAP is a period of a lot of things that are going on. We all have so much to do in our plate. However, still the best part of MIT was meeting those fantastic 180 plus people we have there and building a network that will last for a very long time in our life. So overall, MIT is one of the best experience anyone can have in their life. So if someone is thinking about pursuing supply chain education, MIT Skill Network is a place where they should be.
What did you think of Cambridge while you spent your 3+ weeks there?
Wow, I will have very fond memories of Cambridge. So the first day I arrived there, in fact, it was way too cold for me. I've been to Chicago before,
Yeah.
but Boston winter, I admit, it was way colder.
Windy too, right?
Yeah.
Windier than you would think.
Yes, so the first day I arrived in the airport, I was like, I thought it may be okay because I've seen Chicago winters. And then when I stepped out of the airport, I can feel, and that was a warm day actually.
When is this winter gonna be over?
It got a lot different thereafter. So after that, we kind of during the whole time in Cambridge, we visited different places. We had a hop and hop off ride. So a lot of different places we visited. We visited Quincy, where we had some nice food. We went to Spice in downtown Boston. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and there are a few bars also around the place. So occasionally after our assignment and everything, we did find a place to go there. A lot of times we also walked from our hotel across the bridge to different places. So it was a good experience to walk and see Cambridge.
Yeah, I remember the night of the scale event. It was brutally cold. I was walking there from the T stop, and it's not a long walk to get over to MIT from the Kendall stop, but man. So you have experience, though. You've been to universities in India, in Malaysia, and in the United States. What are the differences? What are the takeaways from the 3 different places that you've been to? Are they run differently? Are the students different? What's the vibe that you picked up? And I don't know, I'm just so curious because I haven't studied abroad, so I need to live vicariously through you.
Studying in India, if you say, it's more like still the focus is more on the grades. So the whole education is somehow unfortunately centered towards grade. There will be very few people who actually are going from the core purpose of learning. It's always about grade. And it makes sense considering that the challenges in India are very different from in any other developed part of the world. So if you see Indian education, there are a lot of push, and there are a lot of push towards particular sectors such as engineering, medicine, and the other sectors, if we say, still have a lot of ground to cover. The usual classroom atmosphere is also very different. There are a lot of focus in India, if we see, on the graded exams. There are a lot of exams, time-bounded exams, and they are usually not as open book. When it comes to Malaysia, the atmosphere is kind of similar to India in terms of rigor. However, still, if we say in terms of the student focus, still there are a lot of opportunity which I can see in terms of exploring different things. It may be because I underwent different level of program. So the program I went in India was kind of a graduate program, and here it's master's program and it's part of MIT. So some of the curricula is aligned accordingly. Still, here we have much more opportunity to explore different things and study different things. If we go to MIT actually we did underwent a lot of speaker series and courses. However, one thing I learned in MIT interacting with MIT students is that the students there are very focused on what they want to achieve, And you can see that in terms of their work ethic, they really work hard, but they also party hard.
Hit this button right here, and party mode will activate.
So that's a bit of a summary I can say about the difference. But yeah, very passionate people in MIT, and it was really great to see and actually work with them.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's a bit like more merit based, I guess. That what you're saying that in Malaysia or India, it's very standardized, right? There's scores and tests, and you got to check X amount of boxes. Where at MIT, it's really sort of about promoting a great idea, and people being very passionate about expressing
Yes,
that idea and not being stuck within the confines of whatever the standardized test wants you to think.
yes. That's also because the job market and other opportunities in the Asian countries is still very limited when compared to US. Now it's very difficult in country like India to not have a particular higher degree and then think of having a good chance job and other fields. Like even if we say if I'm an engineer, I have a background in mechanical engineering. Even if I'm good in coding, it will be very difficult for me to move to any particular coding background. So the barriers here are very high. In terms of grade also, the employers usually also have sometimes criteria, especially at the entry level, to have a particular set of grades. And then it makes that whole environment very competitive and focused on grade. Whereas my experience when it comes to like US, it's very different. Like there are people from different background, and if you see there are opportunities that they're moving around the background. Even in a program, there are people who had very different background for like around 20 plus years, and then they are moving to the supply chain field. So it's very fascinating to see the differences in how the education system works in two different countries or two different cultures.
And speaking of that, so in India, you spent 7 years working for John Deere as an engineer. What was that like working for a global giant like John Deere, well, in India?
So I'll give a little bit of brief background about John Deere in India. John Deere started off in its India operation in 1998 in partnership with Larsen and Tobro. So it was a joint venture. In around 2005, John Deere bought the full stake from Larsen and Tobro. Now it has the whole ownership. John Deere mainly manufactures around 5,000 series tractors there. Now, when it comes to working for John Deere, being my first company and working there 7 years, I can say I'm honored to work there. John Deere, when it comes to the opportunities that it provides to employ, the culture, it's amazing. I started my career as an engineering trainee, but the opportunity that they gave me to work in different functions, ranging from engineering, marketing to product management, that was eye-opener for me as an engineering trainee. Then working in logistics function and learning from some of the best in the trade, it made me realize the importance. It helped me gain kind of knowledge of how logistics work. And thereafter, even after working in a particular function in 3.5 years, I had the chance to go and work in entirely different function. It's still the logistics project that I worked in Technology Center India, but I also worked on the business intelligence tool that before starting in that particular role, I had little idea. But the kind of support that my peer provided, the training that I went through, it all made up for the lack of particular experience and helped me gain my foothold in entirely different domain.
Yeah, having that experience probably really helped inform the projects that you were doing and the approach that you brought to the program at Missy and this MIT Scale program. I'd have to imagine, did a lot of the people that were also in the program, do they have as much experience before joining it as you do? Or is it just a range of people, from people who've never really touched supply chain but have an interest to people with years of experience?
Yes. So generally, if we see in Missy or even in MIT Global Scale Network, there are a lot of people who have a very good range of experience. So when I was there in MIT, I've seen people whose experience ranges from somewhere around 2 years to around 30 plus years. So a lot of variety in terms of experience. Even in terms of education, there are people who already have a master's of science, MBA, or some other higher degree. So a lot of different people from different background. Even in the current institute, Missy, where I'm studying, there are people who already have master's degree, and the usual experience range is somewhere around 3 to 15 plus year. However, last few years, we have also seen people at a very senior level in the organization with experience like 25 plus year, who have studied in MISI. So it's a great diversity we usually have in terms of experience and the different backgrounds that people have. So it's great to study among people who have such different background as they bring a different perspective on the table.
Around the mid 2010s, I was starting to see a lot of clients want to shift their sourcing for like textiles, beads, things like that from China over to India. What is the logistics infrastructure like in India? Is it more advanced than maybe some Americans' misconception of it may be?
So when it comes to warehouse, definitely there are challenges, but it's not as bad. Like even if you see India as a market, there are a lot of different MNCs that are operating in India, and the overall warehousing that they're able to afford, it's very good. It's not maybe as to the as modernized as to the level of US, but overall it's good enough to kind of sustain the material and move through. There is some investment from the government also and push for the more of the infrastructure. However, the only challenge I believe is because of the population density that we need to improve immediately is the road condition. The average distance that a particular truck that travels in India is somewhere around 150 miles a day.
Yeah.
150 miles a day. So that makes anywhere manufacturing inside the India and exporting very difficult. Now, if it comes to textile, most of the textile hub is located inside villages, in particular, let's say northern part of India. There are few hubs in southern part of India. And textile, especially India, has a long history of producing some beautiful handicrafts, other textiles material also. So the opportunity is there. It's the infrastructure that still needs to be improved. However, the basic infrastructure, like when it comes to warehousing, it's good enough for now. However, in future, it needs to be improved, especially the cold chain warehousing, the cold chain trucking. That is something that India needs badly, because a lot of food right now, India is a food surplus country now. So a lot of food now is also being wasted in absence of cold transportation.
No, yeah, that could be a big challenge, I imagine. It's interesting. It's an interesting time in supply chain because the United States, we have our own infrastructure problems here. We don't give enough money to roads and bridges and those things. And supply chain technology is starting to advance pretty rapidly. And a lot of our supply chains are, kind of behind here. People are just starting to catch up. So I imagine that must be an even bigger challenge for a place that's still sort of developing and trying to find their footing in supply chain.
Yes, in fact, as we say, challenges also brings opportunity for some. So even within this space, if we say like road condition is the problem, but there are some startups that are kind of trying that relay model and even building, trying to solve that particular problem of late delivery. Now, if we say from Chennai to Delhi, that's around somewhere 1500 miles. That distance can be traveled in around 1 day to 1.5 days sometimes. And that has been made possible through the relay model that some of the startups are operating in this space. So the opportunity and the startup environment is good. The people are trying different things to kind of go to that bottleneck. However, still there are a lot of things that need to be done to make it a world-class infrastructure.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you say that, and it's great that you mentioned opportunity, because it sounds like there is, especially for a startup and fresh eyes coming in to solve these problems, it seems like there's tons of room for efficiency. And when you have these long transit times, efficiency becomes so important, especially things like backhaul loads, right?
Yes.
If you have to drive 150 miles or a day and a half to a port, it's really nice to be able to bring that container back to your distribution center, your warehouse, or wherever it's coming from with a load instead of having to drive it back empty.
Yes, yes. So a lot of such startups are coming up, and even that long haul is a problem. But even at the hyper local delivery space, there are a lot of exciting startups coming up that are kind of solving the last mile logistics problem in India.
All right, so you know what? I want to know what's next for you. You leave John Deere. You're graduating from this post-grad program this year. Congratulations. I imagine you'll get through. So what is next? Are you going to be the next great mind to solve these problems? What are you going to come back to Cambridge? Was it too cold? Are you going to go back to India? What's the plan for Manish?
So I'm looking forward actually to work with John Deere. I actually didn't left John Deere. I'm on sabbatical currently. So when I kind of applied for the program, I had that initial discussion with my company, and I was lucky enough to get the sabbatical. There are few roles that I've identified in my company. So I'm really passionate about supply chain and analytics, and this is one of the particular area that I'm exploring even within my company. How can I use my knowledge, what I've gained through MIT Scale program, and apply it to some of the most challenging problems that we have in our company?
That's fantastic that John Deere has given you that opportunity to go on sabbatical and continue your education. I think it's awesome when companies invest in their employees and their people like that.
Yes, it's one of the many policies of Deere that has actually helped me through my career. In terms of other policies, also Deere really take care of its employees. So I'm really fortunate to work for Deere.
Yeah, well, Manish, best of luck to you. I hope to see you again. I hope you make it back to the States. And if you do, make sure to drop me a line. I know we're connected on LinkedIn. I wish you all the best. When you graduate and you're back at John Deere, maybe you can come back on and tell us whatever brilliant information you've learned while in school and whatever you're instituting at John Deere. You can give us a peek under the hood.
Thanks a lot, Tim. I'll sure be looking to visit you again in Boston. And Boston, I have a very fond memories of MIT and the IAP. So thank you for hosting me again.
Looking to take control of your freight and future-proof your supply chain? Get ready for tomorrow today with Aborn & Company's Advantage Modern Managed Freight Solutions. Find out how we've combined traditional freight management fundamentals with data and technology to help companies reduce freight costs, improve carrier service, and bring visibility to their supply chains. Visit Aborn & Co. now to set up a complimentary consultation. Isn't it time you got optimized? If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feel free to email me at tdooner@abornandco.com. That's TDOONER@abornandco.com. I'd be happy to learn something new with you. For this episode and all of our previous shows, visit consultinglogistics.io or simply search for Consulting Logistics on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player of choice. And hey, if you like the show, the best way you can give back is to share it. And if you really liked it, go on iTunes over there and rate and review. Be much appreciated. That's it. We're out of time. For Manish Patwal, I'm Tim Dooner saying take care and happy shipping. Manish, are puns big in Malaysia? Like amongst the students there? Something like I don't know. I wasn't Borneo yesterday. Can't help it. I'm a dad. Dad jokes.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.